Standing on the brightly lit stage of the military auditorium, I held the heavy brass medal of the purple, heart in my hand, while my bone broke under a heavy metal chair. My stepmother Janice struck my forearm with full force, yelling vile insults, while my father, Harlan, and my half-brother Justin laughed in approval. They had no idea that the 3-star general standing beside me was holding an investigation file that would soon destroy their entire lives. I was a decorated sergeant first class who had survived brutal firefights in Afghanistan, yet my own family treated my ceremony like an unwanted delay. Janice glared at me from the 3rd row while Harlan stared down at his shoes with complete indifference. When General Donald Bradley staggered slightly from exhaustion, I reached out to steady his elbow out of habit and respect. That simple gesture triggered the rage of my stepmother, who grabbed a chair and attacked me without hesitation. The sickening snap of my forearm echoed across the silent room, followed by the terrifying realization that my own flesh and blood felt pure malice toward me. Janice stood over me, screaming that I was worthless trash who put on a uniform just to feel superior to them. Justin chuckled at my agony while my father looked away in total cowardice. Before I passed out from the pain, General Donald Bradley lifted me up and motioned for military police officers to secure the perimeter. As the base medic treated my arm, memories of childhood abuse flooded my mind. When I was 15 years old, I came home from track practice to find my bedroom display shelf empty. Janice had thrown all my championship trophies into the outdoor garbage bin to make room for comic books for Justin. When I pulled my bent golden awards out of the trash, I realized that my family considered my hard work completely disposable. The pattern continued after I joined the military. Harlan would call me crying about fake gambling debts or broken appliances, manipulating me into sending them almost every dollar from my paychecks. I survived on basic rations in the barracks while paying for their luxurious upgrades and vacation trips. During a brutal combat deployment overseas, Justin called my satellite phone to complain about the hotel sheets on a ski trip funded entirely by my combat pay, completely ignoring whether I was alive or dead. After the medics placed my arm in a cast, General Donald Bradley brought me into his quiet office and handed me a warm cup of black coffee. He did not ask about my broken family, but instead asked about my combat service near the river valleys in Afghanistan. For the first time in my life, an older authority figure treated me like a valued professional rather than an inconvenience or a personal cash machine. He assured me that justice would be served. The general then escorted me into a secure intelligence facility where 2 federal investigators sat with complex financial files. They questioned me about strange research calls my family had encouraged me to answer over the past 18 months. I realized with growing dread that those casual questions about daily base routines and patrol schedules were not for a harmless magazine article. My family had been using my military service to gather sensitive information. The agents turned a laptop screen toward me, displaying Harlan bank statements showing massive cash deposits. A sum of $20,000 appeared right after a major patrol incident, followed by another $30,000 on the exact date 2 soldiers in my unit were killed by an explosive device. Furthermore, Justin had been leaking base layouts and deployment schedules on online gaming forums to impress strangers. My family was selling military intelligence for cash. The final blow came when the lead agent showed me a photograph of Sergeant Travis Ross, a devoted mentor who taught me how to clear rifle jams before dying in an ambush. Right before that tragic day, $50,000 was transferred to my father. The pain of my broken arm vanished beneath a wave of righteous anger. My family had traded the lives of my fellow soldiers for patio furniture and luxury cars. While I sat in the intelligence room, my phone rang with a call from Janice. Putting the call on speaker, I listened as she put on a fake emotional voice, begging me to tell the police officers that everything was a big misunderstanding. She claimed that we were family and that I needed to protect them. With total composure, I told her that she was not my mother and that her choices had finally caught up with her before hanging up forever. Later that night, I looked into the mirror of my barracks bathroom, seeing a pale and exhausted soldier with a cast on her arm. I remembered every moment where I chose silence instead of fighting back against their cruelty. Touching my forehead to the cool mirror frame, I made a firm vow to myself and to the memory of my fallen comrades. I promised that I would never allow myself to be silenced again and that I would bring full accountability to those traitors. The next morning, I met General Donald Bradley in the Tactical Operations Center alongside military legal officers. We designed a clever plan to lure my family back into the auditorium. An officer called Janice to report that all charges were dropped and that I wished to offer a public apology in front of the base. Driven by arrogance and a desire to see me humiliated, my stepmother eagerly agreed to attend the reconvened ceremony. The auditorium filled to capacity with soldiers and their families who were told to attend a mandatory briefing. My family strutted down the aisle with insufferable pride, taking their reserved seats in the front row. Janice wore a pastel suit and a cheap imitation pearl necklace, smiling smugly at me as if she had won the ultimate victory. I stood on the side of the stage with my arm in a cast, calm and ready for the trap to spring. "General!" Donald Bradley walked to the podium and addressed the crowd in a booming voice. He announced that we were here to discuss sacrifice, honor, and treason. The large projection screens flashed with bank records, wiretap audio recordings of Janice selling information, and Justin chat logs. When the photos of Sergeant Travis Ross and other fallen soldiers appeared on the screen, the general identified my family as traitors who sold out American troops for money. The auditorium erupted. In anger as the widow of Sergeant Ross stood up and called them murderers. Military police officers swarmed the front row, moving in to handcuff the panicking family. Janice shrieked in denial and stumbled over a folding chair, causing her fake pearl necklace to snap. The plastic beads scattered across the wooden stage floor like tiny, worthless lies while my father stammered and my half-brother sobbed in terror as they were dragged away to federal custody. In the weeks following the trial, my family received long prison sentences for espionage and treason. I visited Justin one last time behind the glass divider of the federal detention center. He cried and begged for forgiveness, wearing an orange jumpsuit that hung loosely on his thin frame. I told him that I forgave him, not for his sake, but so that I could release the heavy burden of anger from my own heart and move forward with my life. General Donald Bradley invited me to lead a new mentorship program for young recruits who were struggling with difficult personal backgrounds. Standing before a room full of young soldiers, I shared my story and taught them that real strength comes from setting boundaries and embracing personal worth. One young recruit hugged me after the talk, thanking me for showing her that it was acceptable to stand up against abusive family members. A year later, I visited Arlington National Cemetery on a crisp morning and placed long-stemmed red roses at the headstones of my fallen comrades. Saluting their sacrifice, I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. True family is not defined by bloodlines, but by loyalty, honor, and mutual respect. The scars of our past are not symbols of shame, but proof that we fought our toughest battles, survived the darkness, and finally reclaimed our true strength.